To this meeting of the Licensing Committee. Firstly, apologise for the technology issues this morning, but my thanks to Michelle for endeavouring to get us together. Right, before I start the meeting proper, members will be fully aware of the sad passing of Councillor Brian Castle, who was a member of this committee. And I would like you all to join me, please, in a moment of reflection and respect for the passing of Councillor Brian Castle. Thank you. Members. Item 1 on this morning's agenda is apologies. Michelle.
Chair, before I do the apologies, shall I just read out the housekeeping notice?
Thank you very much.
Sorry. So I and will be published on the council. I'll switch to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Item 1 on this morning's agenda, apologies.
Sorry, my team's playing up again. Let me do that again. Apologies for absence received from Councillor Farquhar. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Item 2 on this morning's agenda, substitute members, and we have no substitute members this morning. Item 3, election of vice chair. Can I first of all welcome Councillor Peter Sidaway, who's taken up a seat on the committee. Welcome, Peter, and look forward to your input over the next 9 months or so that we've got left. Is it? Councillor Moore was taken up a position on the cabinet, and so therefore we are looking for somebody to step into the vice chair's position. Do I have any nominations from the floor at all? Councillor Dower.
I nominate George Farquhar. Put your microphone on, sorry.
I nominate Councillor George Farquhar.
Thank you, Councillor Dower. Do you have a seconder at all? Unfortunately, we don't have a seconder at the moment. Are there any further nominations? Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Alistair Kelly, please.
And do we have a seconder for? Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Any further nominations from the floor at all? Right, as I see it, we have one valid nomination for Councillor Keddy. Are members happy that Councillor Keddy takes up that position? Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Keddy, would you like to join me?
Very much.
Will the laptop work? The next item on the agenda, members, is declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest regarding the business to be conducted this morning? No, thank you very much. Confirmation of minutes. To confirm the following sets of minutes as an accurate record for the chair to sign, can I just bring members' attention to the minutes of the 15th of May, whereby the review of the statement of licensing policy would need to be completed prior to considering the formulation of a sex establishment policy. The chair and vice chair agreed to prepare a brief report to present to full council to get a view on whether the council felt a sex establishment policy was necessary. The licensing manager advised that she would draft a report to include legislative background, which could form a starting point for discussions. The report would be presented to the licensing committee for endorsement prior to going to full council. Well, members will already be aware that because we didn't have a vice chairman, that hasn't gone forward, but it is on the forward plan, I believe, today for further discussion. So with that point in mind, are members happy that I sign the minutes as attached to the agenda as a true and correct record? Thank you. Item 6, public issues.
Sorry, Chair, there's also the minutes of the previous subcommittees if you wanted to just.
I beg your pardon,
It's on the, yeah,
but they are all included in the agenda.
yes.
So it was to also sign the licensing subcommittee minutes of the as set out in the agenda. There's quite a few there. Members happy? Thank you. Public issues. There are no formal public questions or statements or petitions received so far today. Moving on then to item 7, consideration of the revised statement of licensing policy 2025 to 2030. Nananka, would you be kind enough to introduce the item, please?
Yeah, my colleague Sarah is going to progress with that. But before she starts, can I just apologise to Councillor Dower because I did spell her name incorrectly within the body of the report. So that is a mistake that I will rectify. It is on. Yeah, so Sarah is going to present this item for us. Thank you.
Thank you. The current statement of licensing policy was adopted in 2020 following the creation of BCP Council. Guidance under the Licensing Act states that the policy must be kept under review during a 5-year period, and the licensing authority may make any revisions to it as it considers appropriate. On the 7th of December 2023, the Licensing Committee agreed for the current policy to be reviewed. Following that meeting, 3 workshops have taken place, attended by some members of the Licensing Committee, Linda Cole from Legal, Sergeant Gareth Gosling of Dorset Police Licensing Team, myself and Nananka. The current policy was also consulted with the responsible authorities for their input. For ease of reference, a table of amendments has been produced at Appendix 2, showing the proposed changes to the current policy. A draft policy document has now been produced, ready for review today by the Licensing Committee. This morning, a decision must be made to agree the draft as presented, or amend the draft and agree a final version for consultation. When approved, this draft will be the subject of a 12-week public consultation. Thank you.
Sarah?
So I don't know whether you want to go through the table of amendments or everybody's seen the table of amendments. How would you wish to proceed?
Can I advocate to members that because we've had two working group sessions, I would advocate that we probably just look at the items which were amended for discussion this morning. Should there be any items that members would like to bring to the attention of the officers that they feel should be looked at, I'm more than happy to take those. I'm just struggling at the moment to find the table of amendments. Appendix B, was it? Two.
Straight after the draft policy, perhaps.
What page?
Page 4.1.
Plenty adrift.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, right. Table of Amendments, draft 2025, para number, first of all, para number 1.2, amend the date once finalised. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Item 1.7, wording amended to clarify wording regarding conditions attached to licenses. Did you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah,
I
need to get Yeah, so 1.7 just clarified the different types of conditions that are attached to licenses and club premises certificates, that you've got your mandatory, and then you've got conditions that are offered or mediated during the application process, and ones that are imposed by yourselves if a matter comes to a hearing. It's just to make that clearer.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Moving on then. 3.1, updated to remove the references to legacy authorities.
Yeah, that was just to put the sentence that the policy replaces the old policy. That it just replaces it.
Thank you. 5.2, remove the web links which no longer work, which is probably self-explanatory. 6, new content, new numbering and removed web links which no longer work. Almost a duplicate on that one.
Yeah, so that was to tidy it up and just make, so that was to update with the new data now that we are fully fledged BCP Council, because the previous document obviously brought in the 3 areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just bringing it up to date.
6.1, updated population statistics. I think that's self-explanatory as well. 6.2, added in age profile.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. 6.5, added in student numbers.
Yeah, that was missing previously.
Yeah. 6.8, added in visitor numbers and total spending.
Updated.
Thank you. Moving on then to 7, remove previous paragraph 7.6 and the consultation list.
Yeah, no.
So previously, the consultation process was that the list of consultees was each sent a direct link to, let them know that we're consulting all of these people directly. They were then asked to give us their comments, whereas the consultation process has moved on now. It is through the website, and it is hosted through there. There are statutory consultees which will all be sent links directly to that website and asked to consult as usual. But there was a list of sort of 50, 60 people, and their websites change regularly. So it was just felt that actually it wasn't necessary to be within our policy. Consultees, we would naturally send it to the trade representatives, the parish council representatives, local worship, places of worship. So all of those people will be sent direct links, but we felt that it wasn't necessary to be included within the actual policy because it doesn't add anything or subtract anything to the policy document.
No, and also, for officers then to keep amending the list, it's going to take time.
It was out of date quite quickly.
Yeah, totally accept that.
And like I say, because it's down now through the website, it's a lot easier for people to actually access the consultation, whereas previously we literally sent them an email, asked for them to come, they then emailed it back to the licensing officers who then collated it. So it's a very different process to what we used to do. So it's just sort of reflecting that updated use of technology basically, and that's why the appendix was also removed.
Thanks, Nanka. 7.3 amended date once finalised.
Yeah. That must be updated right at the very end.
Yeah. 9, new chapter detailing the licensable activities. This was previously part of chapter 8, includes a reference to new appendix B.
Yeah, that was just to so that the policy read easier, so it gave you a bit more of a story, so you had the history about what is licensable at the beginning of the document and just set out individually what those licensable activities are, so it's clear.
I think when we had the workshops, quite a lot of the member feedback was that the document that bits of it were scattered throughout, and you had to sort of keep going up and down the document. I think Councillor Dower was one that sort of raised that. So we tried to have it so that it's a bit more clearly set out and kept in more relevant sections. It's not easy because quite a lot of it is relevant throughout different aspects of it. So, but I think we've got it a little bit smoother.
Yes.
But obviously, if any members want to add anything as we're going through this, or you've picked up on something that you feel is missing, please, let us know. This isn't just us telling you what we've changed. This is obviously your opportunity to give that input to what you think should be in this policy.
10, a new chapter, licensing objective, crime and disorder, was previously within chapter 14. Add new and to consolidate the previous content.
Yeah, that's the similar reason, and that will be the same for the next 4 chapters really, because we've put the licensing objectives individually and given an explanation for each of them individually to make it clearer again.
What's expected.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will help people when they're drafting their operating schedule, which you obviously look at when you're looking at an application. These are the type of things that members will be referring to when they're looking at an application, and what's included in that operating schedule to see whether it what they've put in is A, relevant to their business, and B, is it something that we really think that should be in there. So we've tried to include that under each licensing objective because that's how it sits when people are making an application.
Yeah. Okay. 12.19 added bullet point regarding waste and pest control measure contracts.
And that's something that members ask for within the document, because it is something that comes up, I think, when members are getting contacted by constituencies, do they have rubbish bins as their contract? So, maybe just asking for clarification when people are making an application, when, have you got one?
That those items are being considered.
Yeah.
12.20 wording amended for clarification. Premises that operate late at night offering alcohol and or takeaway food can generate concerns about antisocial behaviour and nuisance in the vicinity. It is expected that applicants should address such issues with their operating schedule, and the model pool of conditions in Appendix E will assist applicants in addressing this.
Yeah, that was since the last policy, we've had a significant increase in late night refreshment premises and takeaway premises having alcohol now. So it was to bring attention to that so that it can be addressed in the operating schedule and at hearings if necessary.
Thank you. 13, new chapter, licensing objective, crime and disorder, previously within chapter 14, new and consolidated previous content.
Yeah, that's the same reasons as before.
Yeah.
That'll be the same for 14. Well, not so much 14 actually.
Do members have any sort of input or comments?
Wasn't chapter 10 crime and disorder?
Yeah, I meant the same reasons. We put the licensing the 4 licensing objectives under different headings, so that
They've got each got their own chapter now.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas before they were under a single chapter but other subheadings. It just made it a little bit easier for reference.
Good, I agree.
13.4, amended to be less prescriptive and more based on risk assessment.
14.
13.4.
Oh, 13.4. Yes. So that was also for events as well, and in licensed premises about children. That was an issue brought up by the police as well, wasn't it? It was witnessed at some event with concern over children unsupervised. So it's just being mindful of having constant supervision for minors.
So the onus is then put onto the applicant with regards to
If they
a
consider
risk
it
assessment.
necessary, yeah.
Yeah. 13.9, the last sentence amended to state conditions regarding child admission may be imposed or can be offered.
Yes. Yeah, that's to consider the more vulnerable child, and that they could offer a condition, maybe not to have children on the premises at all.
Yeah. Uh, 13.15, reference to Portman Group Code of Practice deleted and replaced with underage training availability NPOANS.
Yes, the Portman Code's sort of a bit extinct now, so it was no longer relevant. And NPOANS, as my training standards team keep telling me, is sort of a national no proof of age, no sale. So it's a scheme that the training standards certainly endorse, and it provides training for businesses, check off licenses, things like that, that they endorse, and it obviously just helps that they do ask for it as part of their mediation. But we would hope that these type of premises would actually offer it up when they're making their applications. So we just wanted it clear in this that it's something that we do consider necessary.
So does that replace the challenge 25, or is it as well as?
It's alongside it.
Yeah.
It's a training toolkit basically about age verification.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're challenging people's ages and how you go about that.
13.16, new bullet point added regarding the alcohol, PSPO and CSAS officers.
It's self-explanatory. It's just things have moved on, and we do have an alcohol PSPO in place for BCP that was renewed this year. It doesn't stop people drinking in public, but what it does do is, if you are drinking in public in an antisocial manner, it gives powers to people that have got authorised powers, which is our CSAS, Community Safety Accreditation Scheme officers, have the power to remove that alcohol and disperse people from the area to address antisocial drinking. So again, we just want that reflected within the policy that does happen and it is occurs.
Yeah.
People need to be mindful of that, and the responsible selling of alcohol, and then looking out for what's happening for the people that are drinking it in your vicinity.
Yeah.
So the PSPO is BCP wide. There aren't individual PSPOs anymore, and all CSAS and PCSOs have the ability to enforce.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
It's good.
but again, it is linked to that antisocial. It's the antisocial
Social.
drinking. It's
Yeah.
not just drinking in public, sat there quietly with your picnic.
You've got to be drinking and causing antisocial behaviour before they can take the alcohol away. You can't just be sitting there on a bench drinking.
Yeah, I know.
Behaving yourself.
Misbehaving and drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, there are widespread pockets of that kind of disorder at the moment, so it's good to know that we've got a toolkit to address it.
And that it has been expanded, I believe, to during the summer months to seafront officers. Have also been given that authority, I believe. So
That's good.
So it's within this policy to grant that authority to.
No. This policy is just recognising the fact that
Recognising it's been
a
granted
tool
to
that is available
officers.
to officers and
Okay.
to BCP.
Out of interest, how do we grant those powers to additional classes of officers like seafront staff?
That's through different legislation.
Yeah,
We're the legislation reads to be an authorised officer. So if they're authorised in the way they can be authorised for anything, I mean, in accordance with the constitution or legislation, then they'd be able to do that.
All right, that's really interesting. Thank you.
14. Public health, previously chapter 15, consolidation of previous content. I'm guessing that's just amended and
Yeah.
14.8, last bullet point, breathalyzers deleted.
It was something that was included in the last policy, but it's not ever been really used and hasn't taken off in the area. So there's no point in referring to something that's not used by people within this area.
Moving on then, 15, responsible retailing for off sales, which was previously chapter 19.
Yeah, it's just been relocated.
Yeah. 15.4, fourth bullet point amended.
Yeah.
15.5 refers to 15.4 and 15.6 merged to make more sense.
Just the content's been rejigged, basically.
16, the licensing process and application, previously chapter 12, new and consolidated previous content, reference to flowchart added within appendix C as suggested within the members workshop. So that's obviously something that's come from the workshop.
Yeah, that was to help applicants with the process.
See what happens and when and why. So sort of visually it would help our members as well, actually, to see what outside your bit, what is the process for people.
Thank you. 16.4, additional detail around expected considerations to be included within the application to identify and mitigate risks to vulnerable persons.
That was added, wasn't it? So the other considerations were already included, and it was to add the children and vulnerable people in that.
16.7, added list of responsible authorities and a link to web page for contact information.
Yeah.
When
Self-explanatory.
people make an application, obviously if they're doing it electronically, we send it, but if they put something in post, they have to serve the application on all of the responsible authorities, so they've got all the details there.
Yeah. 17, new chapter, representation, clarify requirements for representation and what happens to them and disclosure of details.
Yeah. Even after all this time, people were getting confused about how they make a representation, and we're still getting representations in that aren't accepted because they don't reflect the licensing objectives. So it's an attempt to make that easier to understand and provide something for people wishing to make a representation. We've changed the form so it sets out exactly what's required from them, and we've addressed it in the statement now to make it clearer to all parties what's going to happen once your representation is made.
Thank you. 18, new chapter, licence conditions to explain different types of conditions.
Yeah, that just expands on what I said at the very beginning about the different types of conditions.
19, enforcement. Previously included within chapter 8 as enforcement and sanctions. New content including 5 steps approach to enforcement flowchart.
Yeah, so this method has been used for several years now. We work with the police as well, who use this approach, and it's proved quite successful in bringing people. So from the very first contact, about educating them, advising them, and then if that doesn't work, then we go through these stages until ultimately, unfortunately, it comes to a review.
Cumulative impact of a concentration of licensed premises, previously chapter 9.
Yes, so that's if and when should we wish to have a cumulative impact policy, that's relevant to that.
Yeah. 21, other mechanisms for controlling the impact of licensed premises. This was previously chapter 10. New content as well as consolidated previous content.
Yeah, so that's updating now since the last policy, all the things that we're involved in and available to us to manage the nighttime economy and licensed premises and the impact they have.
2112 to 2111. That appeared to be that just added information to the policy.
So 2111 to 2112.
Yeah, unfortunately the numbering's not quite right. It starts with 20. Well, it starts with 2.12, but it should be. I'm sure it should be 21.2, and then it goes down to 2111.
Yeah, that's all the updated partnerships and things we don't work with.
All the things that have been put in place to safeguard patrons, that are out in the nighttime economy, with regard to the violence against women and girls agenda, and there's quite a lot. I think perhaps, and I think certainly previously talking to members that people weren't aware of, the street pastor scheme, the purple flag. We've got the new Unity Promise that's been launched recently, and it's all about the wraparound services to help protect people when they're out and about, and a lot of these are done in partnership with our licensed holders, so they need to be aware of them as well, which is why it's really helpful sort of setting it out in the policy.
Thank you. 22, planning and building control, previously contained within chapter 11.
Yes, so that is just clarifying, although planning are a responsible authority we consult with, there are occasions when planning and licensing don't always marry up. So it's to steer applicants to recognise that and remedy it, whether they apply for planning before or after, but to be mindful of the fact that they may conflict, especially with regard to terminal hours. And if they're constructing, for example, outside drinking areas that want shelters, then obviously building control and planning need to be aware of that as well.
22.3, added information about the agent of change principle.
Yes, so that was brought in because it wasn't included in the last one. So protecting existing use of premises, I believe.
23, promotion of equality, previously within chapter 11.
Yeah, just replaced.
Placed.
Yeah.
24, management of premise, previously care, control and supervision of premises at chapter 13. Additional subheadings and details added for regard to door supervisors, designated premises supervisors, risk assessments and dispersal policies.
Yes, so included to clarify and reinforce basically about the management of a premises.
What we expect from them.
Yeah.
Basically, this is your responsibility. This is what you need to have in place. And these are the types of things that we'll be looking for when we see you putting in an application.
Thank you. Temporary event notices, previously chapter 16.
Yeah, just replaced.
New paragraphs adding a requirement to provide location plan, 2510 and 2511.
Yes, so we have found, particularly when we're dealing with temporary event notices for open spaces, somebody will say the green, for example. We want to drill down exactly where on that green the temporary event notice applies, so that we know that that can be sectioned off for the limit of 499. So we're asking for location plans, whether it's shown on a map or an audience survey, reference number, so that we know exactly where that 10 applies.
Yeah.
In the event we have to enforce it, we know it's not relevant to the whole of the green.
Yeah. 26, outside events. Previously chapter 17.
Yeah, that was just replaced.
26.5, additional wording and any other official guidance too.
Yeah.
Or was it any official guidance?
In addition to the purple guide, which is what's used for the safety advisory groups and outdoor events of significant size.
Is that a typo there? So two.
Probably should have been a speech mark, shouldn't it? Yeah.
Where, sorry?
So
It's
20.5, we've got additional wording and any other official guidance too. I think two should be an inverted comma.
yeah. Well, that's what it shows on my computer tab.
On the list of amends, 26.5.
But this is just advising us what was amended, wasn't it?
Was it that in the table? It's not
In the table.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Then we'll just look at the document.
Sorry.
27, the review process, previously chapter 18.
Yeah, that's not changed. It remains the same.
Yeah. 28, late night levy, previously chapter 20.
Same.
29, early morning restriction order,
Same.
previously chapter 21. 30, personal licenses, previously chapter 22.
Yeah, nothing's changed there.
And then we have the appendices, removal of list of consultees, previously appendix B. Appendix A, glossary. Appendix B, new content, regulated entertainment exceptions. Appendix C, new content, application process flowchart, and the model. And Appendix D, the model pool of licensing conditions.
Yeah. I think the only document that changed there was the model pool of conditions to make it more better on the eye. That was all, but the wording is the same.
Okay. Right. Do members have any comments at all regarding the amendments made to the new policy? Councillor Dower.
I just want to say thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for thanks for the hard work and the attention to detail with the members to get that through. I think it's going to be a lot easier on the eye and a lot more easier to read through, especially with the flow chart, something like that. So I just want to say thank you very much for what you've put into it.
Yeah, and I would just like to endorse that, as well as the officers and those members who stepped up to the plate for the workshops. Thank you for that. Oh, right. I do beg your pardon. I'm having trouble with my mod go at the moment. Emily.
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. At
You
risk
got
of,
you on mute.
I've turned it off.
Hang on.
Through your speaker, sorry. I know it's not ideal.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, at risk of repeating what yourself and Councillor Dower have said, I just wanted to thank Nananka and Sarah for all their hard work, because there's a lot of detail in that document, and I was part of the working party with Councillor Dower and Councillor Moore, and I know how much work has gone into it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harman.
I need to give my policies.
Yeah.
Judy.
It back down now.
Mute your
Back down your
button, so
volume.
you won't get the feedback.
Judy, did you wish to address? Oh, right. I thought. Beg your pardon. Okay, so moving back to the recommendations then, if there's no further debate, it's recommended that members consider the draft policy put forward for approval and either agree the draft policy as presented or amend the draft policy presented and agree a final version of the draft policy ready for consultation. Additionally, members are asked to consider any specific questions they may consider necessary to support the public consultation of this policy. Members, I'm more than happy that to recommend that we agree the policy as presented at this morning's meeting to go out for public consultation. Members happy with that? Thank you.
For the 12-week period.
Yes. Yes. Right. Please forgive me, members. It's trying to catch up with the paperwork. Where are we? So 203. Thank you, Lawrence. 203.
Yeah, my app won't work, so I did the BCP website looking at it.
Okay, it's probably, now I've got rid of the blank page.
Right, members. So moving on to item 8 on this morning's agenda, to approve the statement of licensing principles, Gambling Act Policy 2025-2028.
Yes, thank you. So I'm just taking
you.
over from Nananka. She's had to leave. So she was going to present this, but basically our current gambling policy is due for review. But national guidance from the Gambling Commission has suggested that we do a refresh rather than a review, so that it stays within the time limits, because there are anticipated to be lots of changes to the guidance to the Act, and authorities are now going to be doing the refresh review, and then do a full review once we know what these changes are, which will be sometime during 2025. So incorporate that in then a review at that time when we know what the changes are, but we still have to do a mini review in the meantime. So if you are happy to approve the final version as presented, or agree to some final wording, that's a decision for you today.
Thank you, Sarah.
We're actually in the hands of the Gambling Commission,
Yeah.
so they're reviewing the whole Gambling Act, and there's a lot of work going on there.
Yeah.
And they've told us that they will issue new guidance to local authorities. So I think initially there was a thought from local authorities that, well, we won't review the gambling policy till we wait for the guidance. And then what has happened, as Sarah's just told you, is it's the Gambling Commission that has told local authorities, just do this light touch, just sort of amend what you've got, you know, just to bring it up to date if there's different names, addresses, that type of information. So that is what has happened. So the policy that's the draft policy that you've got, there's no need for that to go out to consultation because it's very minor, just, you know, tidying up type things. So, but it would just then, it would mean that we would have a policy that has been reviewed, even in that minor way, and then we'll await then till Gambler Commission come forward with their guidance, and then we'll do the proper full review, which obviously would be a bigger job, and then would go out to consultation, etc., etc. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda. I did speak with the NANCA regarding this issue. If I could bring members' attention to paragraph 7 of the agenda report. The information that was received from the Commission's Mr. Rob Burkett is laid out in that report. I'm happy to read that section out, but if members are happy to you know, agree that that's obviously what we received from the Commission, and that officers have worked in accordance with that information provided. If members are happy with that, I would then recommend that we agree the final version for the policy, and it gets presented to full council. Members happy with that? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on then to item 9, the forward plan. Got to be right near the bottom. Yeah.
Is it?
Right.
Okay.
238.
Here we go.
Before then. 235, Michelle.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Did you want to talk us through that, Sarah, or?
See, number 1, statement licensing policy dealt with now. The Gambling Act, we've dealt with that today. I'm not okay with what's happening with the taxi one.
I've got a feeling that Nananka was looking for a workshop group on that one as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have been working on that. We've had a couple of workshops already, haven't we? So I think where we are with that is the final draft with all the amendments so far go to the workshop just to check, and the trade, they've been fully involved as well. And then I think the plan is to bring that draft policy to the licensing committee December.
Yeah, and it looks as though the policy has to be reviewed by 2025. So I'm guessing it would have to go out to consultation.
It will
early 2025.
Yeah, it'll have to go out. I mean, we're doing it in sort of slow time, but there are quite lots of bits and pieces of change. So, yeah, I think that was the plan.
Thank you. 4.
The scrap metal, there's no requirement for us to have a scrap metal policy, but we have agreed to have one. It's, if anything, it's good guidance for applicants and ourselves as enforcement officers, and that is coming to you in December.
That doesn't cover gold and silver, does it?
No, this is for site and collectors. Number 5. Oh, that's when we get the information from
Cool.
the Gambling Commission and that
Yeah.
updated, so to discuss that. And the pleasure boat, that is being worked on, drafted for the moment, and with a date to be confirmed to come to you in 2025.
Yeah, this was deferred because of our consultation clashed with the problems that were experienced out by the pier, and we felt it was better to defer it rather than have members of the public get confused as to what boats we were looking at. Committee briefings and training sessions.
I think Jill just left these on here for info. They've
Yeah.
all taken place. I believe. Just
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Ticks.
yeah, so they've all taken
Ticks,
place.
yeah.
I can take those off the next forward plan if you'd like to
Okay,
make things
yeah.
clear, or if it's nice just to have it so that you know what you've done this year. It's entirely up to you.
Well, it gives us a reference point, doesn't it, as to what we've
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
And obviously, if there's any other areas that members feel that they would like
Yeah.
information sessions on or training sessions on, feel free to let me know and we can sort that out.
Thanks, Michelle. So it just leaves me with the point which was raised earlier on with regards to the sexual entertainment venue. Are members happy that we picked this up again with the licensing officer, both myself and the vice chairman, to have a look at this and see the way forward? I've been advised that it will cost the council a lot of money, whichever way we move forward, and that as a licensing department, there is no budget for this. So it will cost a lot of money, A, in officers' time to put something together and get it through council. B, if we don't have a policy and we make representations, it has to be qualified by council in regards to the actions that the council takes. So I think it's going to take some time to sit down and decide how we move forward on this. In any event, it has to go to full council to get full council to agree whether or not we move forward on the issue. Any thoughts, Michelle?
Trees have just kicking board on the road a little bit, and I'm concerned that this is a policy that we need to have documented in some form, whether it's just a very short version or something. But if it needs to go to cabinet to council, I would like to suggest that we can get that on there as soon as possible, so it can be debated properly and costed, so that Shall I add a bit of clarification?
Sure.
So
Thank you.
Chair, is that okay?
Thank you.
So Menanka has already drafted a report for the chair and vice chair, you know, just a briefing note really, rather than a report, just to set out the legislation and the fact that you can have a policy, you don't need a policy, and the effect of having a policy and not having a policy. So that is the baseline, just so that we, and then I think the idea is once Menanka shared it with chair and vice chair, because I think that's what was agreed,
Yeah,
it will be up to them. Yes, let's bring that back to licensing committee to just have a discussion. So what officers have always said since the policy that we did was quashed by the JR is, if we want to have a policy, we can do it. Legally, we can have a policy, but legally you don't, it's not a requirement. So what we've said, there's no point the licensing officers starting to draft a policy without knowing what the wider council wants. So that's the bit about needing to go to council. So if we want a policy, you know, if the council wants a policy, or if licensing committee want to recommend to the council that we have, the full council, that we have a policy, that's fine. But then the budget has to come to pay for it. Now, we don't actually need a barrister legally to do it, but we don't want to get our fingers burnt again. So we haven't got the experience within the council just to do it ourselves. We need to go out to council. Now, the reason why Nananka feels it will cost a lot of money, well, I mean, there will be the cost of just preparing it, but it is likely that whatever policy we have, it will be challenged again. So it'll either be challenged by people, for example, that don't think we should have any SE fees in BCP area, but in the same way, you've got the counter challenge of people and organisations that run those type of establishments. And the reason why Nananka says that in her briefing note is because this is what's happened in other areas of the country. So it's really just so everybody knows what we're getting into. That's what the briefing note's about. And then if we want it, that's fine. But we always felt we need to know what it is that's included, because what will happen is you could make a licensing policy, couldn't you, or a draft policy to present to council, and that's only your opinion, you know, the 11, 12 members of the licensing committee, and then you'll bring it to full council, and then full council could pull it apart because those other 60 odd councillors might be thinking something different. So that's why we wanted to go into it with eyes wide open, you know. So that's more of, you know, where the licensing team, and that's the advice that we've given in legal team as well. We just need to know, we'll do whatever everybody wants, but what is it that everybody wants? You know, we need to have an agreed plan. So yeah, I hope that sort of helps.
Thank you, Linda. Any comments at all? Judy?
Just a question. How much impact does the public consultation have on these reviews?
Oh yeah, that public consultation is very, very important. Yeah. So any policy that is drafted in the same way the statement of licensing policy now goes out to public consultation, any policy would go out. So it would have to go out to public consultation. And yes, we do have to take into account, you know, we have to consider the public sector equality duty, and we have to consider all the representations that are made. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that perhaps a presentation to the full council before a council meeting might reap some benefit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think whatever way sort of works. So I think this I know Nananka's actually prepared the briefing note, because she showed it to me and I made some amendments to it just to make it a little bit clearer. So I think if that was it was just like baby steps. Let's start here, then share it with all of you, and then yes, that could be the very sensible idea.
Yeah,
but I think we did something similar and nobody came.
I think
we did the same last time.
Nobody came then.
But we've offered. I mean, that happened last time.
I quite agree with Councillor Williams, because when the issue is presented to council, we would be expected to vote on that issue, wouldn't we? So therefore, it would be far better to have the discussion in an open forum with members, whether it be hybrid on Teams or whatever, so that members could, you know, voice their opinions, and then we could then go to council and it would be basically yay or nay, isn't it? Which would be, yeah. So I quite agree with that, and
it would be sensible. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of maybe misinformation as well. It would be better. Certainly, all we can do is offer, can't we?
Yeah,
we can only offer. I know last time round it wasn't taken up. I mean, there were some people that came, but it was a dozen maybe. You know, which so. But yes, good idea.
Yes, thank you. So there's going to be a cost incurred either way, whether we develop a policy or we carry on with the statutory approach. So we really as a committee need to debate what the best outcome is for BCP as a whole.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, so when the cost outcome, I mean obviously the licensing committee, the licensing team's budget includes to prepare policies. The budget issue comes down the line because we suspect it will be challenged. We don't know till we get into it, but we've already thought we would need to go externally and get external advice and work with us to create the policy, really to reduce the challenge, you know. So that's where it is. It's I mean we can't sort of say we can't do a policy because it will cost to make a policy. I mean, if it's just everyday cost of, you know, officers and, you know, consultations and things like that, that's fine. It's that we're expecting there to be a wider challenge to come from outside. Because we know, not just because of it's happened here before, but it's also happened in other local authorities.
Yeah.
So
It seems like there are a lot of different permutations to this. I'm really eager to read the briefing note for chair and vice, and I think it would make sense personally to refer it back to the committee after that for the full debate.
Before we move on, yeah, Peter.
I just wanted to ask, I mean, the next meeting of this committee is not until December.
Mm.
If that briefing note is going to go to you and not come to us till at least then, why restrict it to just the chair and vice chair? Is it not something that we can take a view on now so we could be more prepared for that meeting?
Seems entirely reasonable.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with that. Do we arrange an extraordinary meeting of the committee to view that?
I think what Nananka, the licensing manager, has prepared is an informal briefing note as a base, a starting ground, not a formal report with a recommendation. I think the idea was for the chair and vice chair to look at the informal briefing paper prepared with the legislation, the cans and what you can do, what you can't do, and then work from there. It's a starting point really for discussion. I mean, that meeting can take place as soon as you are both free and Nananka's free. We can get that scheduled in very quickly. And then it was for kind of the chair and vice chair of the committee to go from there. I'm not entirely sure that the paper that's been prepared is of a nature for a formal committee meeting. But if that's what you're requesting, we can go back and.
It was more circulation of the briefing note for the rest of the committee to have.
Oh, to read it sort of rather than everyone have an extraordinary meeting.
Is there
circulate
time constraints at all with regards to whether we have a policy or not?
No.
Well, you don't have to have one, so there's no time constraint.
There's no initial sort of
I guess especially coming at it fairly new, it's just trying to get as much background as possible. And if you don't tell if there is a view from the officers who understand the topic so much better than we do, an informed view is probably preferable to a formal view at this point. So to get to understand where we are before we start something formal, I think would be quite helpful, especially to me. I don't know everyone else.
So if members are happy, then what we'll do is we'll have a briefing with Nananka, and then obviously put to Nananka with a view to
Chair, a thought. So I mean, Nananka's not here, but I wonder if this might. What about if we proceed as planned? Nananka meets you, chair and vice chair, with the briefing note, talks you through it. You then make the decision to share it with the whole licensing committee, because that could all be done quite quickly. So just receive it by email and obviously note that it is just an informal, it's just a bit of information. And then I wonder if we then set up something more like a bit of a training session based on the briefing note. So you could all bring questions about that type, the area of law and the legislation, and we could sort of talk through it informally, more like in like a training session, like we did set up last year, didn't we? With it, we did. So so we wouldn't need a report, we wouldn't need anything else but what's already been, I think it's prepared. And then you could then, if we did get that all done before Christmas, before the December meeting, it means that you can then at the December meeting decide what you're going to do. Yeah, we as a licensing, discuss it. We've had that, blah, blah, blah. And then you can then maybe at that decide we want it to go to full council just to talk about it.
I personally, I think the next meeting we have, you're saying the training session. I think I prefer if we had it minuted, so there was a bit more, because it's something that it just feels as if we're not being quite open and transparent here about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that's just how I'm feeling, that it needs to be a bit more, the briefing note going to the chair and the vice chair, having a meeting with Nananka, then we have a training session. I'm just wondering if we can make it a bit more transparent.
So I think what Linda was trying to say is that we could do that background work before we bring it to the next full licensing committee, where it would be minuted in respect of a proper report.
I don't mind what way to do it, but I think you need to have the information. I mean, I wouldn't say it's complicated law, it's not, but there's a lot of things that go around about it, and it's just to have that discussion in a group. But I don't mind whatever you think is the best way. I think what Nananka's drafted, it's no secret. I don't think she's going to mind all of you having it. It's not that isn't a problem.
It's whether members have a briefing, an informal briefing, and then agree whether to move it forward then, or what format to move it forward to our next meeting in December. Members,
because we haven't got another meeting. I think the reason I said training is because we haven't got another meeting till December.
Yeah.
So whether it's you want to just have it and then wait to December and then discuss it in December, or whether you want to have it just as a training, just if you've got questions about the area of law, really, that was more it, that it might not be so appropriate to have in a formal meeting. I personally think it would be best if we had an informal briefing, then we could decide exactly, what route we wanted to go, with a view to putting it on the agenda for the December meeting, because it's going to take a long time, I'm sure, to go through the nitty gritty of it all, and I can't see that coming to a meeting without any information or knowledge on it would be beneficial to anybody, to be honest.
That's exactly what I think I want to get to understand what's behind it, at the level that we won't understand unless someone briefs us. So when we get to a formal meeting to discuss it, we've got some knowledge that's actually relevant as opposed to opinion. So I think that works for me.
So can we ask officers then to arrange to have a meeting either with Nananka or yourself, Sarah, regarding the brief that's already been put forward? We can then move that forward to the members, and then look to get in the diary a date where we can have an informal training session briefing with regards to the way forward before we take a report to the December committee meeting. I mean, what have we got? We won't have any. We're nearly October now, aren't we? So
So the acid test, so do you need a report for that? Would you just?
Well, I think we need our meeting first, so that the licensing committee can then either go to full council for a briefing or take it directly to the council meeting. But I agree with what Councillor Williams said. It might be better to have an informal briefing, because it's so important and so diverse that it will take. Members.
So We are all pretty much unified in agreeing that an informal briefing would help to educate us prior to the next committee meeting, but with no substantive decision being made at the informal briefing.
Yeah.
I think that ticks all the boxes. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry, just to just confirm. So what you want to do, just to confirm, yourself and vice chair are going to meet with the licensing manager to discuss this paper.
Yeah.
Then that's going to be put out to everybody, full committee, and we'll arrange a briefing session to go through that, questions and answers, and we'll put on the forward plan for December as a formal item to be discussed as where you want to go following the session.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Because if say for argument's sake it was to be then moved forward to full council, you're probably looking at January, February for the next full council meeting, because it'd have to be put on the agenda, wouldn't it? So
yeah, and then you'll be going to full council to recommend, I suppose, that you want.
Although
just to ask, because if you have this as well, yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? If as a committee you feel that you need a policy, then you'll go to full council. Yeah. But if after everything you decide that you don't want a policy, it stops there, because you wouldn't go to council to say you don't want something.
We need that full council workshop group, as was suggested prior to going. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've got that.
So that would be between the committee and the full council. There would be an all-member briefing.
Yes.
Around SEV policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main thing to the main.
You have the meeting with the chair and vice chair.
Yeah.
Comes to full committee.
Yeah.
And then a training session, or is that
no training session? We'll get that done sooner. So
right.
Chair and vice chair, just see this is it. Yeah. See if there's any tweaks you think, or a bit more. You might say, I think we need a bit more on that and a bit more of that. We'll amend it, the briefing note, send it out to all of you, just informally, and then you've got that to have a read, have a look, think of what you want to talk about, and then if we arrange like an informal session just for anybody, all of you that want to come, because you might have questions about it, explore it a little bit further so you understand exactly what the policy can cover and what it can't cover, and then after that, I think
the December meeting,
at the December meeting, the licensing committee, you'll probably all you'll all be up to speed. You'll be experts, in the area,
and then you can take a formal report advising that you want to
ask full council for. Basically, what do you then want in your report? I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We can do a policy, but we're still at what does BCP Council want in this policy type thing.
Alistair.
I've sat on, I think it's 3 different SEV licensing subcommittees now, and there is a lot to unpick around this policy wise, and I really would encourage the informal briefing approach. There's also a lot of history as well, and a lot of challenges. I think it's really important that we get this right, and this all sounds like a good roadmap.
Yeah,
I'm sitting on that subcommittee, so that'll be my 4th.
Yeah, temptation.
Judy.
The full public consultation fit into all of that?
It would be after.
Sorry. Shall I carry on? Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go on. Why not?
So basically, once we have a draft policy, I mean, at the moment, we've got no policy. So this is to get us to, does the council want a policy? Yes, we want a policy. Then full council and licensing committee, what do you want in your policy? Then the licensing officers would draft something. We would have to have a bit of a workshop again. We would draft a policy, come back to licensing committee, to discuss it. This is what the workshop had said. There's then this is the final draft, a bit like we've done with the statement of licensing policy. And then again, it can be full discussion then within the licensing committee to tweak it. And then you prepare a policy that would then, is this the policy then you want to go out to consultation? So that would then go out to public consultation. It would then go out to public consultation. once it's come back, we have to look at all the responses for the consultation. That comes back to licensing committee. This is what we sent out as a draft. This is what the public have said to us. Do we want to make any changes to it? So you make the appropriate changes, and then when you've got a final policy, that final policy would then have to go to full council to be, well, in theory, ratified and adopted. That's sort of the process, but we are doing it in really sort of baby steps. I mean, usually we haven't gone to full council, and we wouldn't do with the taxi policy or anything to say, what do you want? It's just, we know that it is a little bit different. So we don't want to spend lots and lots of time and energy and money creating something that even you 14 think this is what we want, this is what we think, because possibly what you're saying isn't reflective of what
the rest of the council
want. So we thought, let's just say, what does BCP Council want? I mean, the licensing officers, with the officers, we will draft what the council wants, the type of policy the council wants. But once we've got that first draft, that will always be with you, the licensing committee, you know, before it goes out to consultation to be tweaked and discussed and things like that.
Would we ever move the consultation the other side of that? With Poole Park in my head, if we spend a lot of time and money drafting a policy and the public come back and say, no, we don't want any sexual entertainment venues in our town, we've then got a difficult position where we either ignore what they've said or we change everything and just spend a lot of money creating. So is it something you could have a consultation earlier to see what the public think about that?
You could
as an input to the process, rather than judgment on the process.
Yeah, you can do it both ways. You can do. I think last time we had 2 consultations. You can. Yes.
Before one.
No, not. But we didn't have one before. We had 2 once we had a draft. We had a policy, a draft policy. We went to a workshop. It got completely changed in the workshop to what the officers thought people would want, and then we sort of moved then from there. But part of the consultation process, it did actually go out twice. So, but yes, there's no reason at all why we can't. In the same way, we're asking full council, what do you think you want? And we draft something that could be this. We could put something out. It doesn't even have to be like the whole every word of it, but it could be there could be themes. It's
just the risk of going all the way to the end game.
Yeah.
So actually, that's not what we want.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. But yes, we could do that.
Okay. Any further discussions at all? No. In which case, then, can I just say a big thank you to everybody for your patience this morning with the technology.
Sorry,
thank you to Michelle, Sarah and Nananka. It must have been awkward trying to produce information over the laptop. Michelle's all right, she's got a nice big screen. Okay, so and I declare the meeting closed at 11:30. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Chair.